If you're judging exposure by the back of your camera, you're making decisions with a liar. In bright light, the LCD will tell you one thing. In shade, it'll tell you another. And neither of those tells you what the file actually contains. If you've ever come home with blown highlights and blocked shadows, or an image that felt right in the field and wrong in the computer, this is probably why. Most photographers don't get exposure wrong because they're careless. They get exposure wrong because they're trusting the wrong feedback. The screen on the back of the camera feels immediate. It feels visual. It feels convincing. But it's only a small illuminated preview. And that preview changes with ambient light, brightness settings, viewing angle, and even your own fatigue. That's why two photographers can look at the same image on the same camera and come away with two different opinions about whether it was exposed properly. One says it looks bright enough. The other says it looks dark. Both are reacting to appearance. Neither are reading the data. The histogram changes that. It strips away mood, brightness, and guesswork. It gives you something far more useful than a pretty preview. It gives you a map of tonal information in the file. That matters because exposure is not really about whether an image looks nice on a tiny screen. Exposure is about where the data is sitting, whether the file still holds what you need. If your highlights are clipping, that data is gone. If your shadows are crushed beyond recovery, that data might be gone as well. And once it's gone, no amount of editing heroics is going to bring back detail that was never recorded. That's the real cost of not understanding the histogram. You're not just making a brighter or darker picture, you're deciding what information survives. So the goal today is simple. I want to move you away from judging by appearance and into reading what the camera is actually telling you before and after the capture. There are three core principles that matter here. If you understand these, the histogram stops looking like a strange mountain range and starts becoming useful in the field. The first principle is this: a histogram does not show you the scene. It shows you the distribution of tones in your image. On the left side, you have darker values. On the right side, you have brighter values. In the middle, you have midtones. What it doesn't show you is whether the photograph is good, dramatic, moody, artistic, or boring. It only shows where the tonal data is sitting. That distinction matters. A beginner often looks at the histogram and thinks there's a correct shape. There isn't. A low-key image can lean left. A high-key image can lean right. A foggy scene may bunch up towards the middle because there's very little contrast in the first place. So stop looking for the perfect mountain. So what you're looking for is whether important data is being pushed so far left or right that it's being lost. That's the field action when you bring up the histogram. Don't ask, does this look normal? Ask, am I losing important information? That's the right question. If you're photographing clouds with delicate detail, you need to know whether the bright edge is being clipped on the right. If you're photographing a dark forest with subtle shadow texture, you need to know whether the left side is stacked so hard against the edge that the detail is collapsing into black. The second principle is this: the histogram is useful before and after capture, but in two different ways. Before capture, if your camera offers a live histogram, it becomes a guide. It tells you where your exposure is heading as you adjust your shutter speed, aperture, or ISO. That means you can read the scene before pressing the shutter and make a deliberate choice instead of reacting later. This is especially useful in difficult light. Let's say you're photographing a landscape at sunrise. The foreground is dark, the sky is bright. On the LCD, the scene may look dramatic and beautiful. But the live histogram might show you that the highlights are already climbing onto the wall on the right side. That tells you something important. The mood may be beautiful, but the file is in trouble. Now you can respond before you capture. So you can lower the exposure, bracket, use a graduated filter, or decide protecting the sky matters more than opening the shadows. That's a creative decision built on real information. After capture, the histogram becomes confirmation. Now you're no longer guessing whether the file is held together. You're checking whether the exposure choice did what you intended. This is where histograms become your second set of eyes. Your eyes read the scene, The histogram reads the file, and you need both. The field action here is very practical. Before the shot, glance at the histogram as you refine exposure. After the shot, check it again to confirm whether the important tones landed where you wanted them. Not every frame, not mechanically, but whenever the light is difficult, contrast is high, or the scene contains delicate highlights or deep shadows that matter to the image. The third principle is this: exposure is not about centering everything. It's about placing the tones where they serve the image without destroying recoverable data. This is where photographers often go wrong. They see data leaning to one side and they panic. A histogram leading to the left is not automatically bad, and a histogram leading to the right isn't automatically bad. What matters is intent and control. If I'm photographing a moody interior with deep shadow and a narrow shaft of light, I expect the histogram to lean left. And that's part of the visual truth of the scene. If I'm photographing snow and soft light, I expect more information to live on the brighter side. Again, that's not a mistake. The mistake is when the histogram tells me that important parts of the tonal range have hit the wall and I didn't notice. So your field action is to stop chasing average exposure and start protecting important information. Decide what matters most in the frame. Is it highlight details in the clouds? Is it texture in the bark? Is it subtle tonal separation in a face? Then place your exposure around that priority. That exact fix depends on the scene, but the point is, the histogram has shown me the truth before I commit to the wrong file. You're no longer asking if this little preview impresses me. You're asking, did I preserve what matters so the final image can become what I saw? That's a very different way of working, and it'll save you more photographs than a brighter screen ever will. So who do you become when you start reading the histogram properly? You become a photographer who stops reacting and starts placing. You stop gambling with light. You stop trusting a glowing screen in bad conditions. And you begin to work with the evidence. That matters because confidence in photography does not come from hoping the image worked. It comes from knowing why it worked. The histogram gives you that bridge. It's not there to make your photography feel clinical. It's there to make your decisions more honest. In the field, honesty matters. The moment will never exist again. If the light is fragile, if the cloud edge is changing, you need a method that can be trusted. So here's the one behavior change I want from you. The next time you're in difficult light, stop reviewing the image for how pretty it looks on the LCD. Pull up the histogram and ask one question. Am I losing important information? Start there. That single habit will change the way you expose. If you want a deeper breakdown of this way of seeing, my histogram ebook is on my website. The link is in the description. It's there as a practical tool you can return to in the field and at home when you need it. If this way of thinking resonates with you, stay with the work. Like the video and subscribe. Keep watching as the journey unfolds, step by deliberate step. The light doesn't wait, and neither should we.